that it really does tug on the heartstrings, because it's like people now understand, even though this isn't happening in my backyard, like as a human being, these are babies, these are young mothers, and these are American buyers.
Yeah, my backyard's buying it.
You have to tell the story for people to care, tell people why they should care. And I think that this is one of those stories, like when I'm generally reporting on murdered women internationally, like there's this level of empathy and compassion that we're getting from the American audience, because the majority of my audience is American.
Yeah.
But it's very fleeting. But then there will be like a case that like this, that it really does tug on the heartstrings, because it's like people now understand, even though this isn't happening in my backyard, like as a human being, these are babies, these are young mothers, and these are American buyers.
Yeah, my backyard's buying it.
Yeah, my backyard is part of this operation, funding it. And so to me, when I look at this story as a whole, of course, the people, like evil villain number one is the ring that is running this operation and started this. Evil villain number two, the people buying it, buying the babies.
I agree.
And I just see, I hate having to like go into depth with stories like these, because then there ends up being some speculation. But I still, like, I don't get too in the weeds to impact my reporting at all.
What do you mean by that?
Like
there's speculation with it.
Like I start to think about what could be going on and stuff. But I think that because of the knowledge that I have in terms of like this whole realm of issues, I can, my intuition is pretty good. So I can understand like what could be the reality of this situation. I feel like I'm speaking in code to you right now.
No, it's fine. I understand.
So like, for example, in this case, I don't think that the buyers are unaware of where these babies are coming from. And I just can't like seem to hit that home enough, because I feel like there needs to be American eyes on this.
Yeah, if you're, especially once you told me what the pricing is here and everything, and the fact that there's pricing on it, if you're getting handed an infant from some dude in a suit and handing him $100,000 and the infant has fake paperwork, you know everything. Fuck you. Even if you don't know exactly, you know.
It doesn't take a genius to get like a weird feeling.
Yep. Your gut, there's no way. Even people with a room temperature IQ, like, you know. There's no way you don't. And that's what makes it sick.
That's why I have a hard time believing. And when I first broke this story, I talked about that this could be illegal adoption. This could be human trafficking. That my source said, you know, some of these people receiving the babies may not know. Now, in my reporting, you know, I went through all of that. But then when you sit with the story, like, your perception changes on a story, especially of this high stake, when you first break it versus when you sit with it and really start to think about it. And this is the kind of story that like keeps you up at night, right? You're just constantly like thinking about it and thinking what could be going on. And the more that I thought about it and continue to think about it, I'm just like, I don't think that these babies are going to a well-meaning family who wants to expand their family and has been like dying to have a baby and like went through any means possible. I mean, sure, I know that some of the high volume international countries that were like top providers of like international adoption for the US cracked down on their adoption laws. And so parents who want to adopt, it's become harder for them.
Yes.
But I just don't think that these are the people who are, I don't know.
So it's, and that makes it, if that is the case and that speculation is even mostly correct, it makes it a pure productized infant human trafficking operation that on the other end includes the worst things, whether it be organ harvesting like we talked about earlier, or even sicker, twisted shit like that, to where these children probably don't even live past infancy, and those that do wish they wouldn't. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, and it's only been going on for a few months, so it's hard to know like how long these babies are surviving after.
Do you have plans to try, when you are down in Juarez, any leads even to try to privately get a hold of potentially family of potential victims of this?
Yeah, but if it means putting them in danger, I won't do it.
You won't do it.
Even if it's like, oh, this really added to the story and it really gave context, I won't do that. Because imagine, like, you've already been through enough.
Yeah, 100. I don't blame those people at all. They're in a situation where anyone apparently in the government that would have helped them is now gone.
Yeah.
And that's a sign to them being told shut the fuck up if they didn't already know that already. They live in a country that's war torn apart by these cartels and effectively run by them at every level. And they have no economic means. They've already had one victim in the family. Like, if the average family is another 5 people, are they like, well, all 5 of us want to die too? I mean, it's people out there like, oh, how can you say something? Dude, put yourself in their shoes. It's not.
See, with this type of story, unless someone seeks me out and wants to talk, I won't push for it. Yeah. Because also I don't like, and a lot of journalists disagree with this and don't operate the same way. I don't care. I don't like having to convince someone, especially someone who's been a victim, to interview with me or to give the story. I don't think it's ethical.
You don't think it's ethical?
No. Because you're already, you're kind of, and I can be very like convincing with some people. It's like, come on, just tell me, or let's talk, or we can talk. But I don't want to do that to someone who is already like in a vulnerable position. And then it could make life worse for them. I've learned like a very good lesson with this type of thing over the course of the last few years, which is like, how do I say it? Like, even if you think that you can have a positive impact with whatever you're doing or whoever you're talking to, you still have to consider that it could have a negative impact.
That's right.
And if that outweighs the potential positive impact, it's better off just to stay out of it.
Where it gets weird, where it gets really weird from like an ethical perspective, if we're talking about this, is like, I can't even imagine having to answer this question if I were you, but like trade-offs in that position, meaning, okay, if I talk to this family of the victim or whatever, I hate that we have to talk like this, but just bear with me. There's an X% chance that something really bad could happen to them as a result of them talking. But if I do it, there's a Y% chance that this story blows the fuck up. Forget if that helps my career or not. I'm not talking about it for that. I'm saying
for like the actual understanding.
And
public.
then potentially it saves a Z number of future victims, which is a large number, and puts a cap on this. It's like,
no, the former still outweighs it, because I was taught by like a journalist that I highly respect. If it impacts the person's livelihood or life, don't do it.
Can't.
And
tough for me to argue with that.
I'll stand my ground on that. With a criminal or a politician, will I be like, come on, tell me? Or like,
that's different.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck them.
But if it's like a but in this case, if it means that their livelihood or their life is at risk, I won't do it, even if it means like, oh, saving other people. I'm not gonna get someone to play Jesus here. Like, this is not. No, we're not doing that. I would never want to put someone in that position, because I don't want something bad to happen to them. Second of all, selfishly, yeah, mm-hmm. I would feel fucking horrible forever and ever, and would not be able to live with that if that happened. There's just no way. Even if it meant like, oh, well, we saved 20 pregnant women.
You're going to think about the one.
100%. Because that was like completely my fault. So I would just never do that in the first place. I don't think it's ethical at all.
Are you, well...
That's why I actually don't like when some journalists will like go into these types of hostile environments and pay these types of people to talk to them. I've never paid for interviews because, first of all, I don't want people to be like working, like putting on a show. And second of all, I think that for a lot of these people, yes, money is a very appetizing incentive, like it's something that they need. And I think that that's a bit exploitative on the journalist side. I would never do that. It's like, if you're not going to talk to me for free because you want to get your story across, it's done. So yeah, could I probably go and find family members of these victims and try to convince them to talk with me, or hand them a couple bills and say, talk to me? They would probably do it. I actually have no doubt that they probably would. I would not do that.
What if you just, this is probably too simplistic to look at it, but if you made him an anonymous source, meaning you didn't say, like, I don't even know what effect that would have, though, if you couldn't say it's a family of a victim. You know what I mean?
Well, see, like with anonymous sources, these are people who still understand, like all the people that I've spoken to anonymously, they still understand that there's somewhat of a risk. And also, I have been very good at protecting these sources, right? But because this is such a vulnerable and like it's a victim, I wouldn't even want to take that chance with them. And also, when I'm talking to criminals or people within high levels of government who are giving me anonymous information, they're not going to go and be like, yeah, I talked to this journalist and told it, right? But these people might.
Yeah.
These people might trust the wrong person. And so it's not even about trust in myself at that point. It's, do I even trust you to protect yourself after we do this? I don't know. There's a lot of elements that go into it.
Yeah, there's heavy questions you got to ask at every layer of this. There's not like a moment where you're like, well, I can get...
Not easy.
Yeah.
Not easy.
Not even you, I would say that the different sources in the know who you speak with, are they concerned about a copycat syndrome happening here with other cartels?
Oh, I haven't even talked about that. Like, I have no idea. I don't think so. I would hope not, but I also didn't think that this would ever happen in the first place. But
yeah, I mean,
that's a good question.
This is one scenario
that
where
this becomes one of their means of.
I mean, that would be the worst case scenario. You would hope that this would be like the one scenario that was like Al Qaeda with ISIS, where Al Qaeda was like, yo, we're not that bad. You know what I mean? We're like, Sinaloa was like, all right, listen, we do fentanyl. We don't.
But we're not doing all of that.
We're not doing that. Like, you would hope that this might be the one place it is. But unfortunately, all of these cartels have a track record of, if it's, like, you know the quote, if it bleeds, it leads. Mm-hmm. Find another one where it says, if it pays, it weighs, or whatever. Like, they're gonna follow money. And if they see something like this making millions of dollars,
they're gonna follow suit.
Yeah.
I think that's why they're trying to nip this in the butt right now. Like, it's there are people who are trying to put a stop to this
immediately
before it gets to that point. I would hope that it doesn't. But what the fuck do I know? I never thought that they'd be doing this in the first place.
Why? All right. This is going to get to some politicization or whatever here. But even though this is brand new, it is brandly sick on every level. Now that it is a story, and clearly based on what you've been able to say publicly, what you've reported on publicly, and I'll say this, what I've heard from you privately, very clearly is unfortunately legit and has legs. Why hasn't, like, Trump, of all people, who's declared the cartels terror organizations, why has he not talked about this yet? Or is this even at his desk yet? I mean, I would think this would be like he'd be tweeting up a storm about this. This is the ultimate, like, do you see why we got to kill all these people, kind of, referring to the cartels, kind of moment. Like, why has that not happened? You reported this, what, a week and a half ago? Something like that?
This is brand new, right? I just broke this story, and I think that for a bit, this was pretty need to know. Mm. I would not be surprised if in the near future that there is the administration makes some comments about it, and they whether they know about it already or not, unclear. Can't speak to that.
Yeah.
But that's certainly going to be coming. And I think that the reaction is going to be really interesting because in an ideal world, what I hope to see is, all right, we're going to collaborate to dismantle this ring. And then we're going to go after the Americans who were funding this. Unfortunately, I have a bit of a feeling that there may not be a hard push on the American buyers. I just feel like for some reason...
Why do you feel that way?
I don't know. I feel like they might miss the mark a bit with that. And like to preface, I'm always critical of like any, politicians or how policy is run. I just think that it would be like this massive upset. And maybe I'm just worried because also with these types of stories, I start to really think deeply and stuff like that. And I'm like, I hope that whoever is buying these babies also faces whatever
the firing squad to start
prosecution, from the U.S. administration.
Yep.
And I mean, at the same time, to be fair, there has been like somewhat of a crackdown on Americans who are profiting off of or funding the cartels. Like we saw it recently. I think we talked about this in the last episode that we shot together about that American family from Idaho who was buying the stolen crude oil. Yeah. So then boom, they're like facing justice system. Great.
That's oil though.
I know.
These are people.
Yes. And I mean, to me, these charges would look like aiding and abetting and like literally cooperating with a terrorist organization. Like if you are an American and you bought this baby, your court case should reflect exactly what you were doing.
100%. And if you are a part of an organization that's doing the trafficking, it's even on a whole another level, meaning on the American side here. Because I think it was Ed Calderon when he was in here. It was very broad. I want to try to, if I remember some of this incorrectly, people put it in the comments and I'll draw attention to it. But he was saying the largest black market in the United States is human trafficking, which includes everything. It includes, human trafficking is human trafficking, but, more low-level prostitution and things like that. But it also graduates all the way up to the sickest things like this, of which he was saying, he's like, why are we not talking about the fact that stuff is way more rampant than we're comfortable talking about at dinner parties? Like, why are we not talking about that at law enforcement centers as much? Why are we not doing something about that? Because he's like, to your point as well, he's like, a lot of the people on the other ends of these say they're not from other countries. Sometimes they are, but they're like, a lot of times it's people that live in this country. Yes. And that are from here and were born here.
But also, this is a very scary topic. And you want to know what's funny? For the longest time, people asked me a lot, why don't you cover the human trafficking stuff? And I actually said for a really long time, I was like, I'm never going to cover human trafficking.
Why'd you say never?
Because I'm scared. It's scary. Like it runs so high. There's always so many people involved. The operations are typically like very airtight, professional. And there's so much money involved that I was like, I'm worried that if I do something like this, that this is where I would face some sort of like violent retaliation or like I would face threats. So when this story came to me, I was like, I guess never say never, fuck.
Yeah. Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.